Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Jared Brannon is not available today, but hey, everybody, it's me, Todd Novak. Welcome to the Guitar Knobs podcast. We are thrilled to death that you are listening to our show. This is a good one. This is one I've been waiting for a long time, and we've got a very, very special guest on the phone. And we also, before I introduce him, we've got a special guest in the studio, a fantastic local musician, guitarist and bassist for several bands, and I've shared the stage with him a few times. Billy Spitfire is sitting right across from us today.
Hello, everybody. Glad to be here.
And certified gearhead himself as well. Now, as for the super special guest we have on the line right now, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, everybody. My name's Acey Slade. I hit strings for bands.
All sorts.
I played for, in the past, I played for Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, played for a band called Amen for a short time, and I'm currently playing for Till Lindemann of Rammstein and also the band Dope. And I've also known to grace the stage of some pretty classic punk rock bands as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the Murder Dolls.
Yeah, and Murder Dolls. Yeah. And Murder Dolls.
And probably a whole list of other ones that you could probably keep going on and on, about.
That's about the end of the list. I'm not that big of a. Well, I can't say the word because we're not supposed to curse, but I'll leave it.
I gotcha.
We know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, and so to set the stage for everybody, the reason why I was so interested in Acey is that. He plays, typically we if we have somebody who is a professional musician, it's they do a thing. And in this case, he does two things for lots of different people that need him. And I just thought that was such an interesting scenario.
What are those two things,
Well, he
Todd?
plays a hell of a guitar and he plays a hell of a bass. And I think that is it's kind of like the way in my layman's head. I was like, would I call my electrician up to have him come do plumbing? Nope, unless I knew he was an incredible dude and was really good at both. And that's kind of the case of Acey as well as our friend Billy here. So I thought that from a gear standpoint and from a musician standpoint and just an enthusiast, rock and roll enthusiast standpoint, that's a really interesting scenario that you really don't hear of often. It's usually people that are joined up with bands are there to do the thing that they do really, really well, and not often is that a crossover. So I thought those were really unique, and I wanted to find out from a gear standpoint, like. What that's got to be kind of weird, like changing the deck every single time, to play a specific style or to play a specific instrument, and what that looks like. So I can't wait to talk to him about this. You guys are gonna love this episode, I guarantee it. Asterisks: we don't have lawyers, don't sue us. And wait, you also run a coffee company.
Yes.
Man. What don't you do?
Sleep.
Sleep.
That's
yes. No rest for the wicked. Anyways, and just so everybody can get a handle on what you're doing, where can they go to see what you're about online?
I mean, mostly my Instagram. That's the place that I'm most active. And then for the coffee company, it's catfightcoffee.com.
Catfightcoffee.com, and go to Acey Slade, ACEY Slade on Instagram, and you're gonna find him, and you're gonna be like, "This guy's awesome. Let's follow him." Okay, let's get a little bit of nonsense out of the way here. We got a few things to cover. Announcements. We need to thank Rode Mics for providing our musical gear. Well, it is musical. It's our voices are musical.
Yes.
Our audio gear. Thank you so much to Rode for doing that and hooking us up with great stuff here. And I also wanted to call attention to, there was a fella that reached out to me from Australia, And we have a lot of friends in Australia.
We must be the number one podcast in Australia.
They might be the only one, mate. I don't know. Anyways, let's see here. So he reached out because hopefully some of you are familiar with the Udemy, or it's like the U Academy. It's Udemy on the web, and it's a place you can go to learn all kinds of things.
Huh.
So it's sort of like,
is that like
it's like a universal academy.
Is that how you spell it?
I think it's
that's
universal
you to
academy.
me.
Very good, Billy. Anyways, he said he's got a course called Time to Play Guitar, and he takes it from from a beginner standpoint and into some, like, hey, let's introduce pentatonic scale and stuff like that. So it's not necessarily if you're been playing forever and ever, unless you want to brush up on your basics.
Yeah.
But it's a great place to start, and it's completely free. This guy's not charging anything.
Wow.
His name is Josh King, and his course is called Time to Play Guitar. And I'm gonna, so I just wanted to say a big shout out to him because, he did one for us, didn't ask for it or anything, and I just appreciate that he's out there contributing to the guitar community and saying, I have something to offer to help other people's feel like I do when I play guitar, and this is how you can do it. So good for you, Joshua King, and continued success with your channel on Udemy. Time to Play Guitar. So go there and check out what he does. It doesn't cost you a dime, and you're probably going to learn something. Okay?
Nice.
All right. Solid. Now, let's get on to what's going on in our music worlds this week. Tony Baloney, a.k.a. Tanya Bolonsky, you're going to lead us off, and then we're going to check in with our friend Acey.
Cool. Well, I did see your guitar today, Todd.
Which one?
The V.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, you were out of Chase's.
Yeah, I went up to, I brought a friend of mine, Sean, up to see and talk and otherwise hobnob with his fellow guitar wizards.
Hobnobberies.
And so we were up there in beautiful Delaware, Ohio, and Todd and, or not Todd, Todd wasn't even there. Sean and Chase got along swimmingly. They were sharing war stories, and I was doing my email.
Fantastic. Those are two of the finest guitar techs that I've ever run into, and they both happen to be out of Columbus.
Yeah. But aside from that, I've been catching up on some issues of Vintage Guitar Magazine, and I stumbled across something from the May issue, I believe it was. And I believe that either Steve Vai has crossed into Immortal Guitar God, or he's crossed the line into insanity.
Yeah.
Or maybe both. Because there's, on his latest release, he had Ibanez put together a 3-neck guitar. Now, other people have had more necks and things.
Yeah.
He calls it the Hydra. And in fact, on his latest release, there's a song that he plays all 3 necks called Teeth of the Hydra.
Yeah.
What makes this really unusual is, in addition to the 3 necks, the top neck is a 12-string, but it's only fretted up to the 7th fret.
Yes.
It's fretless after that.
Yeah.
The middle neck is a 7-string with a probably a Floyd, I believe. And then the bottom neck is a short-scale bass that has, it's unfretted on the E and the A and fretted on the D and the G. And
he should have been more specific with what he wanted.
I think so. And then in addition to that, there are 13 harp strings on it, 3 tubes that show up somewhere. I'm not sure what they do or anything, but it's very interesting. And if you have a chance, go to Spotify or whatever and play that song, because you can hear him play all 3 parts.
He's doing it on Instagram too. Like he's got, it's crazy.
Yeah. But it's it's remarkable, and I'm not a huge Steve Vai fan. I'm not a real big fan of that whole, gobble gobble stuff. But
What you talking about?
but I did enjoy. Yeah, I've seen like Paul Gilbert a couple of times.
You got to
live.
give it up to him for being able to what he does.
And he was, just for those who may not know who Steve Vai is he started off by transcribing Frank Zappa's albums. Later toured with Zappa, toured with David Lee Roth, a bunch of other bands and things. So he is a true guitar virtuoso.
Yeah, for sure.
Not my style of music, but hey,
Yeah.
I can admire someone that has that skill level.
We tip our hat to that man.
Yes.
Indeed. Acey, how about you? What's going on in your music world this week?
Ooh, what's going on in my music world this week? Actually, it's a blank slate this week. Last week, the past 2 weeks, I've been working on a lot of stuff. I did one benefit for a friend of mine that passed away, and so I had to learn a whole chunk of songs that he had played. And then right after that, I did another benefit for an organization called Rock to Recovery, and I had to work on some songs for them, and that happened this past Saturday, and so now the chessboard is wiped clean, which is why I was working on my home studio stuff. So
awesome.
Yeah,
that's always it's kind of a clear your day kind of a thing. If you're going to say I'm going to work on my home studio, I can imagine for you it's maybe 2 or 3 days.
Well, it's more. I'm just not a tech guy. Do you know what I mean? And I need to learn to be a tech guy in this day and age. You know what I mean? Like you have to learn, and so yeah, it's part of the job at this point, really. You know?
Yeah. Well, there's all kinds of, coming out of the rigmarole that we've been through, I'm seeing all kinds of different things on stages now, which like, some people are rolling with full crews and some people just flat out aren't. So I imagine you're probably all over the place on that.
Well, and then of course now the problem that a lot of guys are running into, I just saw a friend of mine who's a well-respected sound guy, and he just got off a tour where the band started the tour when gas was $3 a gallon, and in some areas of the country right now it's $7.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so finally they get a chance to tour again, and they get on tour, and halfway through all of a sudden they're going back into the red.
Yeah.
So
got to rent some horses.
or get rid of some techs, unfortunately.
Yeah. Excellent. Billy, it's so good. I'm so glad you're sitting here, man. Billy's one of those kind of
really
people,
is a pleasure
AC,
to be
that's like, you can't not like Billy, and it's your name helps. You're not named like Harold. That wouldn't be people like Billy's. Anyways, go ahead, Billy. Go ahead.
Harold's not that bad though. It's not like his it's not like his name is Beelzebub or something.
No, true.
That's his stage name for the Halloween shows.
I can't think of a serial killer with the name Bill. Yeah. Oh, there's got to be one. Bill.
I think they're all named Bill. Actually, wait a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
My middle name is Wayne.
Yeah.
So look that one up.
Wayne Gacy.
Yeah, look that one
up.
up.
Who doesn't like Bill? Well, his last name Wayne Gacy.
Indeed.
So this week, my week has been every morning getting up at 5 o'clock to my dog Iggy.
Yeah, Iggy.
And since it's a little bit early, I let him outside, feed him, and I'm still kind of rubbing my eyes open. And so I've sat down and I installed Duesenberg tremolos on 5 guitars.
Wow.
So that was
nice.
Yeah, that was my week.
I like those.
Yeah,
those are good. Those are nice ones.
Everything that has a stop tail piece on it,
Yeah.
like your standard Gibson. Or
is that new one I'm seeing on a lot of Firebirds?
It could be.
Or maybe it's just that I
Duesenberg makes several
Firebird.
different types.
Okay.
I think what they do, they're designed to fit on the, like if you have a stop tail piece.
Yeah.
You use those
With the
same
two
mounting
posts.
studs.
Yeah.
And they have a tremolo built into it, kind of like a Bigsby.
Yeah.
Right. I know that's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Except without all the extra hardware.
Exactly.
It's a much cleaner install. Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I saw a post for that on Instagram. It was like I think it might have been an ad actually, and I had been considering putting one putting like a Bigsby on my Hagstrom Viking. And I was like, man, I don't know if I want to, it's kind of
do
well,
it.
I mean, it would look cool and everything, but I'm not as big of a fan of the Bigsby, so I'm like, maybe that would be cool because I don't want to, I don't know, it's super expensive. Anyways,
You can get them with a rotatable, arm.
yeah,
Or you can get a flat arm. That's
Yeah.
just like a Bigsby.
yeah.
I prefer the flat arms
Yeah.
because I love Bigsby's, but and
Yeah.
they look cool. So
Well,
I like the way it looks with all that mass, and I've got a Hagstrom with a Bigsby on it as well.
yeah.
The Hagstrom
Well,
Viking.
then see, the reason that I don't want to put a Bigsby on it is because Hagstrom has a licensed Bigsby that has the really killer Hagstrom emblem, enamel emblem on the base of that, which is too cool. It's like I want that. Sorry.
Yeah.
But you can't buy them by themselves, or at least the average Joe can't. So I tried, but anyways. Okay, well, as for me,
How about you, Todd?
Well, thank you, Tony. I found a delightful package in my mail from one of our fantastic supporters, James Pennington, one of our poobahs. And he sent us, he's got a channel called Guitars of Doom. And so he's starting to make pedals and stuff, and he's just like, into the community, and he's just a great friend to our show. And he sent 2 pedals. One is a big, huge single knob, like green meanie kind of pedal, and the other one, that's Fuzz Doom, and then he calls the other one El Jefe, and that one's just got a bunch of other stuff and a high-low filter on it, and they're just both cool, fun fuzz pedals. And he sent them to me to play them, and then to give them to our other supporters, our other Patreon supporters, both of them. How freaking cool is that? He just built them to give away to all the other people that support the show. I love it.
That's very freaking cool.
It is freaking cool, man. So, anyways, humongous thank you to James Pennington, Guitars of Doom, for sending that to us, and I can't wait to get those in the hands of some of our supporters.
I think it should be Guitars of Doom.
Yeah, you work on that. Yeah,
I'll work something.
that was pretty good.
It was closer.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, Todd.
Yes,
You said you got those 2 pedals from James Pennington.
I did.
Did you use how did you hook that into your pedal board?
Well, fortunately, I have a pretty ample supply of tour gear.
A slew, maybe?
A slew of them. Myriad, maybe.
Of
Tour Gear Designs patch cables. And I love these things because I have them in all kinds of different lengths.
Really?
Billy's pointing at me like, wait a minute, I know what this is. And so fortunately, I was able to get a couple of different lengths.
Yes.
Hook them up all together.
Yes.
Super fast. They didn't get in the way of anything else. They didn't crowd the 9-volt connector like a lot of pancake patch cables do. That's awful.
These are cool cables. I just looked them up, and they're flat.
They are flat.
They have little tiny
The size of the
jacks.
And they come in a C shape and an S shape. So if you have top mount, if you have all top mount, you're in business. If you have a top mount to a side mount, they got you covered.
How about the W mount?
They're working on that.
Okay.
Yes. So anyways, go to tourgeardesigns.com and load up your cart with these patch cables because they're cheap too.
Wow.
They're really, really well made.
But I've been told
Yes.
that if you go down at the checkout,
Yes.
and you go to the coupon code section,
Indeed.
and you type in the guitar knobs,
Yes.
You will save an additional 10%.
That is 10%. That's 10% anywhere. Not just, it's just 10%.
Everything.
Yes. On the whole
On an
bucket.
already reasonably priced products.
Indeed. And so we thank the Tour Gear folks very much for sponsoring our 4 on the Floor. Tony?
Let me get a little bit of this.
1, 2, 3. 4 on the floor. All right, Acey Slade, guitarist and bassist extraordinaire, and maybe not necessarily in that order. What is your 4 on the floor?
Well, I'd have to say, obviously, I have to start with a Korg TU2 tuner.
Yep.
which actually is second. Now that I think about it, it's actually second in my signal path. The TU2 is just it's the staple, man. It's like I've been using one forever, and they're tanks, and it seems like any gig you go to, most people are going to have them. So yeah, the Korg TU2. I know that might not be the most exciting thing, but that's the second thing on my pedal board.
Well, let me ask you about that really quick, because there's a lot of tuners out there, and you're probably in line with me. Like, if it's dark, I don't want to be trying to read a needle bouncing all over the place. I want to see a big giant letter pointing at me.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, and like I said, it seems like that's the industry standard. It seems like everybody has one.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know how much people hear it, because I mean, are you going to hear the difference between a Korg TU2 and a Peterson strobe tuner as far as accuracy and being out?
Yes,
I don't
you will.
think so.
Yes, you will.
You think so? Okay, all right.
It's all in the preamp.
Playing loud rock and roll, maybe, but it seems like you in general, though, I do like to roll the dice and having the same tuner that most people will have.
Sure.
For that reason, Yeah. And it just seems like everybody has the Korg TU2, and if you have that, it seems like if somebody's out a little bit, they won't be looking at you with suspect eyebrows.
Oh, well, actually, that's a really good point that you bring up. It's not that, okay, you kind of shifted the angle on that. It's not that everybody has it, so therefore it's better. It's that everybody has it, so it's kind of like if you're like a bank robber in the 60s, and you're like, all right, boys, synchronize your watches. You all have the same watch.
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
Mine's a Seiko. What's yours?
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm sure that there's a Peterson strobe tuner will definitely give you more accuracy than the Korg TU2. But what I meant is more like it. That's the one that everybody will probably
sync
have
with everyone else.
Well,
yes,
and I think
exactly.
the other nice thing about that is they're relatively easy to replace should something happen to it. They are workhorses.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it.
Yes.
But every once in a while, something craps out, and you just make a quick run to the local Guitar Center or Sam Ash, and boom, you got yourself another one.
Yep.
Exactly.
Cool. So what's your next one?
But so the first one, what goes before that though, is the Whammy DT, the Digitech Whammy DT. And it might not be for the reasons you think. So to be completely blunt, I really hate whammy pedals. I feel like it's like after Dimebag did what he did with it, and of course a lot of times he was actually using a whammy bar, but everybody, the whole wham, going up 2 octaves, like that riff, wham, riff, wham. It's like, oh God, how many times I got to hear this?
Yep.
It's like, well, you're either doing that or you're doing a pinched harmonic, and I hate both those things. But some of my guitars have fixed bridges, and I do like to dive bomb occasionally, and I do like to. So I use it in lieu of a Bigsby, or in lieu of, well, that would be. I'm a Gibson guy, so I wouldn't use anything like a Floyd or anything like that. So I like to use it for in lieu of a whammy bar, tastefully. So, but the detuner function will save your ass if you show up somewhere and they're like, oh, nobody told you we tuned down a half step
or more.
Yeah, or whatever. Oh, we're gonna play it in a different key. I'll be honest with you, I can't transcribe that fast on the fly, and I felt very fortunate. I did the gig I did the other night. I did with Monty Pittman from Madonna's band, and Ministry and Prong, and he's played with everybody. And we were backstage before the gig, and he's like, wait, what? Do we tune down a half step? I'm like, no, it's standard. And he's like, I learned it a half step down. And he was like trying to transpose it. I'm like, dude, why don't you just have him tune you up a half step? He's like, yeah, you're probably right. So it made me feel good that somebody I respect that well can't just like transcribe on the fly. Like he's a monster. And he was like, yeah, I can't do that. And it was a Green Day song. So it was like, all right, cool. Like it wasn't rocket science, but yeah, and not only that, but some bands I toured with, and we got into it a little bit when we were talking about gear. So like when I tour with the band Dope, I'll take a bass with me that's tuned standard with a hip shot drop tuner, so I can go from E to D. Or I think actually no, you know what I'm trying to remember what I did now that I think about it. Actually, I think I went from D sharp. I remember now. D sharp to C sharp, because we had a D sharp and a C sharp tuner. There was one song that was in E, so I could take the Whammy D tuner. That one also goes up, and that's one reason I love it. Is you can pitch up or you can pitch down, and I reach down real quick, dial it in a half step up, and then my bass is in E, from D sharp to E. And then I can go down to C sharp, and then I can also drop it down to B.
Right.
And you don't get, and I'm not getting a lot of fragmentation that you can get. Obviously, if you have to go lower than that, it's maybe not going to sound that great.
Yeah.
But in that tuning in particular, D sharp up to E, not a big deal. And then if I engage the hip shot and I go down a whole step, I can get down to B. So
yeah, that DT is like, I mean, it's foolproof too, because for kind of the things that you're saying, I definitely I'm with you on that. I always feel like I'm like really hacking my way through a lot of stuff. So when things are made easy,
Electro-Harmonix Pitchfork, I think, sounds a little bit better, but it doesn't have the expression pedal, and it also I don't know why they set it up the way that they did, but it's like the way that the Digitech setup is, it's like half step, whole step, like it's just numbered. You can see it very clearly.
It's very manual.
And the Pitchfork, it's like, I don't know what it does. It goes from like a half step to like a step and a half or something. Like it's like, shouldn't the next one just be another half step interval? But it doesn't,
Now, are you finding you're using that mostly just with bass, or using for bass and guitar?
Bass and guitar.
Okay.
Yeah.
And no real issues with multiple string hits and things like that. You find tracking pretty good on that unit.
If I'm tracking, I'm gonna actually pull out the guitar.
No,
like the actual guitar.
Yeah, I meant tracking as far as the pedal tracking the string signal.
Oh no, I don't have any problems with that.
Cool.
And if there's anything like that, it's like I've probably just gotten so used to that pedal that I just don't even notice.
I think you just managed to sell a few more of those. That was the best sales pitch I've ever heard for that pedal. How about number 3?
Ooh, now here's where we start to get a little bit tricky. So if I'm playing bass, I'd have to say my Dark Glass Vintage Deluxe pedal. I used that. It's basically, it used to be the Sans Amp, what is it, RBI 1 or whatever. And Dark Glass, it really expanded upon that. And the Sans Amps are great too. But some gigs that I do, it's like if they have a really crappy amp on the road or at the gig, the DI out of that, I believe it. I think it has speaker emulation, but I may be mistaken about it. But it sounds so good that you don't miss the cab. It just, it sounds great. That's like, all right, well, here's my amp. That's like my backup amp. And it's also my preamp in front of whatever it is I might need to play through. The Dark Glass, the Vintage Deluxe, that's the pedal.
And I think you make raise a good point that these pedals like the Whammy as well as this one, what that's going to sound like. So it does give you that ability to just in some cases use it in place of an amplifier or in addition to an amplifier. So that's pretty cool.
And the Dark Glass stuff is made so well.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah,
really and there's guys. The gig that I did the other day, one of the guys, he works with Sammy Yaffa. I don't know if you guys know him or not, but he played with the New York Dolls. He played with Hanoi Rocks. He played with Joan, like I did. He's a very revered bass player. And he was like, oh, that's all I use. And like for him to use one of those, and like his basses are all like 60s and 70s P basses and vintage this and vintage that. But when it comes to his preamp, it's the dark glass. So.
Yeah. And he's going direct out too, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe so.
Wild. Yeah.
Good to know.
Good thinking. Billy's
Good to
taking
know.
notes.
I'm writing all this stuff down, man.
And then on guitar, taking the place of that would be a modded tube screamer.
Perf.
That I had modified by Keeley, a Keeley modded tube screamer that I have. I usually, for guitar, I like to get all the dirt that I can straight out of the head. But if I need a little extra, then it would be my Ibanez tube screamer.
Okay. What's the mod on that?
I don't know.
Okay. I don't know. It's quite all right.
Let me tell you, it's so funny because I spent years, everybody saying, oh yeah, tube screamer and a Marshall, tube screamer and a Marshall. And I was like, yeah, but I don't want to sound like everybody else. And so I just avoid getting a tube screamer for years and years and years. And I used like a Dana Electra Fab Tone, and I used a couple of other things. And then we were on tour with a band, and the guy in the opening band, his dad had a music store, and they had a Keeley modded tube screamer there. He's like, hey man, we swing through town. And I was saying that I had always been interested in one, but was grumpy about it. And he was like, well, we got one at the shop if you want to try it. And it was like, as soon as he brought it by and I plugged in, I was like, well, why am I such an idiot? Like, why did I spend 10 years being so stubborn about this pedal? Like, if everybody uses it, it's probably really, really freaking good. So
Yeah.
I should have just gotten it. You know what I mean?
You know, you are striking a lot of chords with me. I've said so many. Most of my gear stories are about I don't want to do that because I don't want to sound like everybody else. And Tony's like, why don't you just use a Marshall? I'm like, I don't want to use a Marshall because I don't want to sound like everybody else. So guess what I'm using?
Marshall.
Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
I completely understand your way of thinking. It's like, hey, if you're gonna do it. You know, if you're going to, whatever kind of artist you are, part of the whole thing is have your own voice. And the gear so much shapes our own voice. It's not the only thing, but it certainly comes into play. And
Sure.
So if you can control that and you're able to do it, then great. But to your point too, hey, if everybody's using a spoon to eat soup with, you might want to try that.
Yeah, exactly.
So. Anyways, how about number 4?
Number 4, I would probably go with. I'd probably go with my Gaiatone chorus pedal, and I'm not sure specifically which one it is because they made 2, and I have both of them in 2 different rigs. And so I switch back and forth, and I want to say it's called the M1, but it's blue with yellowish orange writing on it.
Okay.
The guy that I work with in one of my bands, he's a tech for Volbeat, Ace Frehley, like all these guys. And when he was building my rig, I was like, yeah, man, I really want one of these Gaiatone pedals. And he's like, well, why don't we get you a Boss, or why don't you get you this? I'm like, dude, I don't know, man. Like, I've just always liked these. And he was like, all right. And this guy is the biggest gear nerd you will ever meet. Like, he's this guy that'll be like, oh, that Marshall cabinet, is a 1967. Lou was on the line that day, and he used a different kind of epoxy that day. He's that guy. And like a Cliff Clavin, but he's actually correct. So anyway, he had never heard of the Gaiatone. He had heard of the Gaiatone pedals, but he was like, why is this thing so special? And he did some research on it, and he came back. He's like, we do got to get that because it's got this, flux capacitor in it, which does make it sound like. So you're correct in that. You've got good ears. Like I won him over on that. So it's a Gaiatone chorus pedal, and I don't do effects to sound nice and Pink Floyd-y, if that's a word.
If not, it should be.
Yeah, right. if not, I like to really make things sound nasty. Like I want you to know I just stepped on a pedal. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to, and so I would say that one would probably be next.
That is the PS017 Distortion and Chorus Double Effect 1985 and made in Japan, if I'm not mistaken.
Ah, okay.
Wow, was that right off the top of your head,
It's
Todd?
off the top of my head.
There we go.
Now
Somebody's on Google.
my computer's sitting on top of my head, but it's there. You know, I did just look it up for the because I'm curious, and when you started. When you mentioned the orange, I remembered. I was like, "Wait a minute! I think I know what you're talking about. I think it's the one with the little metal bar where instead of like a peg foot switch, that we're used to, for lack of better, it's a little foot, it's a little bar.
It's a foot
right?
bar.
Yeah. Anyways, and pedals from Japan and the '80s pedals from Japan, they're cool too. So you got cool factor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, by the way, we just did this is for everybody, not just you, Acey, but we did a show recently, one of our 101 shows where we dove into
Pedals of Japan.
That's right, from our friend Chris Gill, a lifelong writer for all of the guitar rags. So we learned about all that stuff, and it was great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your Four on the Floor. That, as interesting as that was, which is one of our most beloved sections on the show, we want to find out about you and what you do on a daily basis with your gear, and the story behind how does one become not only a international touring guitar player, but also an international touring bassist, and where some of the decisions are coming from, and is it difficult, and all the things that go along with that.
I want to see what your favorite number of strings are on any instrument.
Well, I guess that the easy answer to that is I'm definitely a better bass player than I am a guitar player. But you know what? There's nothing cooler than hitting an open A chord in front of a stack.
Yeah.
Like you don't get that same feeling from a bass. Do you know what I mean? And what I like about bass is, depending on the gig, I mean, what I like is it's a little bit like I don't do crossword puzzles, so maybe the analogy's wrong, but I feel like when you come up with a bass line, it's a little bit of like you're slowly chipping away at it. You know what I mean? Like you're slowly molding it. Like, you kind of start off and you're just hitting, the basic same chords as the guitar to get up and running. And then you start listening to the vocal melody. And, I've been very fortunate that I've stepped into the shoes of some great bass players like Kazim Sultan, and worked with great drummers as well, who will tell you a lot about bass, and so I feel like I'm definitely a better bass player than I am a guitar player. I'm more a rhythm guitar player, and in the hard rock and heavy metal world, it's like rhythm guitar player. Ugh.
Rhythm's everything.
That's where I live. Yeah, for that.
Yeah.
Also, because I'm not a great soloist or a great lead, but from a bass standpoint, and so let me ask this: most of us kind of think of like, oh, the bass guy basically, there's this relationship with the drummer that the guitar player doesn't necessarily have to the degree that a bass player has.
Yeah.
When you are on stage or, whatever you might be doing, do you find that it's weird to kind of maybe toggle on and off from that? Or
No. It's I don't know. I throw myself into one or the other, and they really are two different instruments. I mean, it's like I really have to be aware of the fills that the drummer's doing, and also if the drummer does fills, where he does them. I mean, one of the probably the two best things that I've learned about bass, one was from Dave Lombardo, and he always gives a fill when he's gonna change, and it might not be like a big dramatic fill, one you might not notice, but he said, he's like, yeah, that's our job to let the singer know that we're going into the next part. And he's the only drummer I've ever met who thought about it in that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, yeah, well, this is the way we let the singer know that it's time to go into the chorus, or that it's time to go into the pre-chorus. I think most times drummers think of it like, yeah, you just do a fill because you get a little space there to do something,
right,
you know, and that's not the way Dave looks at it. And it really made me realize that with bass, and it helped us to communicate way better. And then the other thing too is Joan told me one time, and it was weird because it was so obvious, I never really thought about it, but she's like, yeah, you know, I really like it when, you know, the bass goes from, say, eighth notes in the verse, 16ths in the chorus, and then never the two shall pass. Mm-hmm. And it's weird because, I mean, I did that before, but I never had anybody just say, like, yeah, you play less in the verse, or you play more in the chorus, or vice versa, depending on what the song calls for.
Yeah.
But those are two things where my brain goes to when I'm playing. Like, all right, where's the drummer going to get the fill so I can match it, and where am I picking up, and where am I laying back? You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Now, the one exception to that would be Spinal Tap's Big Bottom.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
I was waiting for when that was going to come into the program.
Those two pieces, and then the third piece of information that I was given that is just the best as a bass player, but also as a guitar player and musician. There's a producer that was named Kato Kandawala, and he did a lot of huge records. And he said, we were talking about playing ahead of the beat or behind the beat. And he goes, I said, well, he said, how many sounds does a kick drum make? I was like, well, what do you mean? He said, make the sound of a kick drum. I said, boom. So how many sounds is that? I said, well, it's one. He goes, no, it's two. He said, there's the buh, and then there's the And if you want to play ahead of the beat, you play on the buh. And if you want to play behind the beat, you play on the And I never thought of it that way before. Like, I never, you know, because even if you're behind the beat, you got to be consistent. And a lot of people, I think, just kind of Hail Mary it. Like, well, I'm just going to play a little bit slower, and hopefully it's still kind of in time.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. You aim for the every time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I think one of the people that has done that like really, really well, or maybe more recognizable just from a grand star, is Keith Richards, where he plays lazy. Well, you know, it's sort of like, you know, he's dragging behind things, and maybe you know, I wonder if that is part of that, because I've actually never heard that. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, and that's I mean, even
but he's like consistent with that,
right?
Though. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's
and that's
beginning of Midnight Rambler, you know.
Yeah,
and that's what made Frank Sinatra stand out when he was playing with an orchestra. He was always, you know, a little bit behind, and it was a little bit draggy or whatever, but his voice became prominent in that part of the song.
Too true. So from the experiences that you're having when you're you know, you get off of something and you're like, okay, great, I just was out with tour with Joan Jett, and you know, Rammstein calls up and they like, hey, we need you to do the thing. Tell us about like when you have to like completely shift gears on something. What is that? What kind of process do you go through, and gear selection, mental preparation, that kind of thing?
Well, gear selection, life has gotten so much easier now thanks to amp modeling. I use Positive Grid bias amps, and those that I can't say enough good things about them. They sound great, but you know, the heads that I use for them are 300 watt heads, and they're like a third rack space, and I can save, I think, 6 guitar presets and 6 bass presets on the head, and it has all the knobs like you would have on a guitar amp. And so for me, I've used a couple of them. I've used Kempers, and I've used Fractals, and man, as soon as you got a telephone keypad on the front of it, I'm just terrified, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Well, and the kind of music you're playing, I think, more is not necessarily more.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah. I don't like to use, I mean, everything's changing, obviously, but, if I'm going to use a chorus, I want to use it from a pedal, or if I'm going to use a delay, I want to use it from a pedal or something. I don't like it programmed into the effect necessarily,
Yeah, for sure. So in that mental headspace, you're probably learning new songs, and probably shifting but like not totally radically. I mean, you're still in the hard rock and et cetera vein of basically everything you're doing, but I can only imagine it's got to be very different to once you have that sort of mental muscle memory and everything going from doing the shows, touring around with one band and then shifting completely to another one. I think that's something that we all, those of us who don't do that wonder about that. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, I got to tell you, one of the things that was pretty interesting is when I landed the Joan gig, I thought, all right, I love rock and roll. I can play that. What's a big deal there? And what, like I said, what I did not realize is that Chasm Sultan played on a lot of those records, and Chasm is in Utopia. God, he's in a couple of prog bands, and you could tell that it was like 4 on the floor, 3 power chords. Oh, I'm going to have some fun with this. And so that was a challenge, man. It was a lot of walking bass lines, which I'd never really done before. And, they gave me, I think, 17 songs I had to learn. And of course I chipped away at the easy ones first. And then by the time it was getting close to leaving for tour, I still had 3 left that were very challenging. And I was like, wow, oh my God, like, I hope I can get these, but you end up getting it, you just got to work hard. And then switching, the flip side to that is playing with Till Lindemann. What makes it hard
of Rammstein. Am I saying that right?
Yeah. And what makes it challenging with him is everything is in drop A.
Right. Because is that largely based on his vocal range?
I think it's his vocal range, but I think it's also because Rammstein don't tune that low. Mm-hmm. And everything's like a challenge till it isn't, and then like once you overcome it. So for example, like the Jones stuff, it was like all those walking bass lines. It's like, well, yeah, you got to know that stuff, So mm-hmm. that now all of a sudden it's easy peasy. I can play walking bass lines all day long. And then with Till, it was challenging from a gear point of view because I like 4-string basses. I don't like 5-string instruments. And setting up a 4-string bass for a tuning that should really be for a 5-string. Oh man, that was just what a challenge. I mean, everything from like, one of the basses I was using was a mid-scale bass, which is 32 inches. And what all of a sudden I was having this problem with that low A string, and I couldn't figure out what the problem was. My tech and I couldn't figure out what the problem was. Well, the problem was I was using, I think, a 140 gauge string, and the tuning pegs on that bass had the I guess that's a not 1/8, I guess 1/4 inch tuning peg, the smaller one, And so what was happening was the core of the string was breaking inside because it was such a thick string, and it couldn't make that turn.
Holy moly.
So we couldn't figure it out. We're like, why does this A string sound like crap? Like I mean, it was like really obvious something was wrong. It's like, oh, the core keeps breaking. It's like,
Billy, set us up with the big question.
The big question, Acey.
Yes.
Tell me about your guitars.
Oh, this is the fun part.
Number 1 and number 2 on guitar, and number 1 and number 2 on the bass.
Okay. Number 1 on guitar, I'd have to say, is probably my Gibson Les Paul Standard. It's one of 50 custom shop, and it was the first Gibson that I ever got, and it has been with me. I got that as a teenager, and I saw it on the wall, and it's got a finish on it called Brunswick Blue, which is kind of rare. Like, it looks black, and then it's got like blue metal flake in it.
Ooh,
so it's not like
sweet.
it's
Like
not
a
like
bowling
that.
ball?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right.
Nice. And you've had that since you were a teenager, and you take it on tour.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
And anytime I have it, but the thing that's funny about that guitar is it's not my best sounding. It's just always been there, man. It's just always been there. So I always have to include that in with in with whatever it is that I do. You know, that's like my left arm, that thing, you know.
I get it.
So I'd say that's definitely my number one guitar. But my number two, I've been working with a guitar company from California called Marvin Guitars.
Oh yeah, I'm usually wearing that shirt. I just checked my chest to see if it's there. We've had him on the show.
Keith is the best. Maybe that's how we connected.
Yeah, I think it was actually.
He hit me up and he was like, "Hey man, I want to build you a guitar. What do you want?" And I told him, and then like 8 months later, it's like, "Hey, your guitar's done." And I was like, "Oh yeah." So what we did was I wanted something that had the aesthetic of a junior or a melody, like a junior or a special that had like the dual cutaway look.
Right.
But something that was a little beefier. So, you know, we put a single pickup in it. It's got a wraparound tailpiece on it, but it weighs a little bit more, and it's got the humbucker in it. And so it's like, it sounds kind of like somewhere between a standard and the scrappiness with a junior or a special. But and I think we have arcane pickups in those, and the coil tap in it, man, that's the secret sauce. Like that's the little, you know, like I don't like channel switching so much, and I know it's a different thing, you know, but when I switch when I use the coil tap in that, man, it really sounds like a Strat or a Tele, and it's pretty obvious, you know.
Yeah.
I don't like subtlety, and then I engage it and I get a nice Gibson humbucker sound to it. So yeah, the guitars that he and I have built together are my number twos.
You know, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at Tony, and I said, before you said junior, I said it's gonna be a junior, and he said, and then you said junior. Now the funny thing is, both Billy and Tony here know my story about the guitar that I had built, and you literally almost word for word described the conversation
especially the heavy part.
Yeah, I said,
oh, nice.
I wanted it a little bit bigger of a belly, you know, a little.
Yeah.
So it's like a half inch bigger on both sides. I wanted it thicker. I wanted a single pickup. Because I had a Les Paul special that I love, but it was just kind of like it didn't have enough you know.
Yeah.
And so you're saying that, and I'm beaming. I'm like, that's my guy. He gets it. It's the whole thing.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
And his guitars, whenever I sound check, those are the guitars. Keith's guitars are the ones that every guitar has to live up to. Like that sets the benchmark.
That's high praise.
Yeah, and I got some. I got to tell you, man. You know, and I'm a Gibson guy, and you know, they're doing great guitars again. It's been so awesome seeing them kind of rise from the ashes. And they sent me a SG Modern, and dude, that thing rips. Like that's one of the only guitars I've ever had that wasn't made for me. That right out of the case, plugged it in. All right, done. Don't change a thing.
Wow.
Nothing needed changed on that at all. And it's kind of cool because with that, I get a little bit of the opposite of what I get with the Marvins because they have the maple top on it. So it gives me a little bit more snap. But it's the grayish. It's not a silver burst because you can see the wood grain in it, but it's like a gray burst.
Cool.
Yeah.
And your basses?
Basses right now, if I'm tuned standard, I really like SG basses. But I've been really, God, it's so funny. I've been doing I thought I was butchering my SG basses, but in reality, I believe that I'm doing what every bass player who's ever wanted a Gibson SG bass has wanted to do. So basically, I take out those those old EB1 pickups, where it's got the big one and the soap bar type thing. I take those out and I put Gibson style humbuckers in them, bass humbuckers. But what I just started having, Chris at Black Cat Pickups, he now makes me, because for the Lindemann gig, I needed that extra like 2K that you get out of the jazz bass pickups. I needed that because it's tuned so low. I needed, I don't want that clackiness. I just needed that bell that you get with jazz pickups. So we threw jazz style pickups that Chris at Black Hat Pickups built into a humbucker style casing, and it sounds mean and it looks great. And so that's that bass. I have a Zamitis bass, which is amazing. It's got the etched pick guard on it. Those are probably, when it comes to basses, it just depends on the gig. I'm a little bit more picky about with guitar. I don't feel like I have to be as picky about the instrument. It's more about the amp, kind of. But with bass, I feel like it's more about the instrument and less about the amp.
And on bass, so give us an example of what bass with what band makes sense.
Oh, okay. With Joan, I played a couple different things with Joan. So to give it the more rock and roll thing, with Joan, I was using ESP Phoenixes for a long time. I actually brought the ESP Phoenixes to the States. Before that, you could never get them in the States. And I brought them to the States, and ESP had wanted to work with me for a while. And I said, this is the only guitar I want to play. And they're like, well, it's not in our line. And I'm like, this is the guitar I want to play. And they're like, okay, well, we're not going to put it in our line. So you play a Eclipse guitar for first 3 songs or something like that as well. And I was like, yeah, all right. So the guitar came in, and they're like, oh, this is really cool. I'm like, I know. And it's been in their line ever since. And the fact that they never gave me a signature model will forever taint my opinion of them. But I've just still always been a Gibson type guy. So that was a Gibson style bass. And then I played a gold top Les Paul bass with them. And then what I really fell in love with was a 335 bass that I used with her. And from there, I switched to a D'Angelico XL88, I think it was called, which was a hollow body Les Paul shaped bass that I still to this day, I love that thing. I think it's great.
Awesome.
Wow.
I was just showing Tony, last week I ran across one on Craigslist as a Jack Cassidy, a black one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, I want that thing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Can we go back to your Thunderjet, Marvin?
Yeah.
What are the 3? Obviously, I think one's a volume, one's probably a tone. What's the third knob for?
Oh, in case I ever want to drop a neck pickup in.
Oh, okay.
That's smart.
Yeah, there you go. So it's pretty.
So this way, it's already routed out. It's already wired. It's all already ready to go. I just got to cut the pick guard and drop it in.
Yeah, I know a guy can do the pick guard.
Bada bing, bada boom.
There we go.
Well, Acey, this has been really, really awesome. I love how much you've been able to share with us in such a short amount of time, and we know that I know you're getting a lot of things done right now. So we have one little thing that we're going to handle, and then we're going to send you on your way. We have a little thing called Would You Rather. This is a quick question. It should be fun, especially based on what you just said. Would you rather is our little ditty that we're doing. Jared's not here, so he's not singing it. But this one comes from a fella named Stu Shaley. He says, salutations, I'm a fairly new listener, but I am hooked. I'm looking forward to being a grand poobah someday. Not in the cards right now with a 2-year-old and another on the way. However, I mention your podcast to all my friends and coworkers daily. Thank you very much, Stu. We appreciate that. And he says, anyways, here's a scenario. You and your band are making it big, and your favorite big builder manufacturer is taking notice. They offer to build you a signature piece of gear, either a guitar or amp. Not it's like Fender makes both the guitars and amps, and everybody knows that story. So not limited to those two examples. Would you rather choose your own signature amp or your own signature guitar, and what would the model or styling be? Tony Baloney, why don't you lead us off and tell us, would you rather?
I know the would you rather because I was there.
Well, I know.
I would rather have, I think it's an obvious choice, easy choice, the artist's guitar. I think that would be really the best. And I would like a semi-hollow guitar, but with one pickup and a wraparound bridge. Actually, I think what would be really cool would be like a Les Paul custom, but with one pickup and a wraparound bridge.
Not a hollow
Les
body?
Paul.
What? Yeah, you can get
So you're going to do a hollow body Les Paul?
Yes, a hogged out Les Paul.
Okay.
No F-holes.
Okay.
One pickup.
Okay.
Wraparound bridge.
Right. So basically like a Jared Nichols.
I think that is that what.
Are you going to have a wound G string or unwound?
I would prefer an unwound
Okay.
G string.
Okay.
That's my thing.
Yeah. Well, on you, it's going to wind up pretty quick anyway. Hey,
But no, I think that would be kind of cool. Or if that doesn't work, I will take a one pickup Rickenbacker 330.
Yeah, see, I figured you'd go for the Rick.
No, there's something about the when you're thinking about like a Les Paul custom, and in some cases Les Paul customs have 3 pickups.
Yeah.
But having just one, but all the fancy inlays and the headstock inlay, but with a wraparound bridge and one pickup in the bridge.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, that's easy. Guitar. And I mean, really, my Thunderjet guitar already exists, and I forgot to mention that with Marvin, we made a bass that is similar to an SG, but what we did was we made the bottom horn extend out longer, so it almost has a Mossrite sort of look to it.
That's cool.
And
Nice.
And then what we're doing, we did the first one. And now what we're doing on the new one is we're giving it a raised center plank like you have on a Firebird or a Thunderbird.
That's cool.
So it's like an SG meets a Thunderbird meets a Mossrite type of thing.
How heavy is this thing?
It's not heavy at all.
Okay.
And it's not bad at all.
Okay.
Good, because Billy's
Fair
got a bad back, so you can get it. You can get that.
Yeah.
You can get it, Billy.
Me too.
I play
Me
a
too. And in
longhorn
fact,
in my
that's-
surf band, so a Dano
that's
longhorn.
part
It's
of
the lightest thing on earth.
Yeah, I do too, and that's part of the thing with Keith too. Is that like I don't remember what the weight is, but we've been weighing the instruments out, and I don't like them too heavy. Although it's weird because one thing we also realized is that I was doing rehearsals for a band, and he brought this Mossrite by, and he was like, "Well, can you play this for the rehearsals while I work on your guitar?" He's like, "Only thing is, it's really heavy," and I'm like, "Well, it looks cool as hell, so I'll suffer through." And it was so bizarre, dude. Just the way that this thing sat on my body, it's like it didn't feel heavy. It was really weird. Like I was like, I played this the entire day, and I didn't want to give it back to him, to be honest with you. But
Killer. Solid. Billy Spitfire.
I have an answer.
Good.
Because I already have several signature guitars, which Tony has most graciously added my signature, Billy Spitfire.
That's true.
To the pickguard.
Okay.
For example, a Gretsch and it goes on and on because I'm that way about myself.
I dig it.
So I would rather have a signature amp built along the lines of the Gretsch bass amp, quote unquote, which is really geared more for a guitar. But I would have it
That's like a 65 or something like that.
Like a
something
65. The one I have, the chassis has rust and it's ready to fall apart, and I'm not going to touch it because it sounds so beautiful.
Uh-huh.
But I would like it along that lines and just built like a tank. And that would be it. And this is a challenge. Well, no. Here's the challenge. Okay. And again, it's for Mr. Tony.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
and that is to get into the realm of the signature on the grill cloth.
Oh, okay.
The little plastic emblem.
Yeah.
Instead of it saying bass amp, it would say
the Spitfire.
Or the Billy's
or Fire Spit.
Yeah. I did that on the
special
Supro
sauce.
with
Billy's special sauce. That's what it would say on
just
it.
3D print it.
Yeah.
That's what we did. I remember, we did the Valentinos on the grill cloth and took the Supro off.
There you go.
It can be done. You can have that. You can put it on any amp you want.
Right on.
I got a guy who can help you out. Seriously, if you want to put those on your amps, like legit, I can help you out.
Yeah.
All right. Sweet.
Todd?
Well, I'm glad you asked me, Tony. I would like
my signature on your guitar.
I would want Billy's signature. No, you know what I want? I kind of already did my own custom guitar. It's not this is my signature. But
yes,
I would love to do a signature model. I think I'd do the Gibson Barney Kessel. It's a kind of an old jazz style guitar, except it's it's like a bigger body, double cut. But the double cut has it's a little bit more pointed, much like the Vinny guitar that I actually made. Which I did look at Kessel and said, I kind of like this, and so I employed that a little bit. I think I'd want to put like a center block down the middle, though. Maybe, I don't know. That might be crazy pants, but just for some added stability, I probably would put something brighter in, as far as, because right now it's got the Barney Kessel comes in with humbuckers, so I think I'd probably opt for something along the lines of maybe a Filtertron or something. So I think that'd be pretty rad. So
and this is just going to be black with white trim, or is this going to be gold, decked out gold sparkle?
So I'm going to do it'll kind of match. What I'd like to have is all black with the gold sparkle pickguard and the nameplate at the bottom, because on the Barney Kessel it says Barney Kessel, but there's a walnut backing on it. I would want to do a gold sparkle backing on it. So those things would make it my signature. Dang it. And it's a freaking rad looking guitar. Yes. Give me one of those. Make it today. I'll go pick it up tomorrow, Gibson. Anyways.
There is a Reverend Charger that is similar to that. It doesn't have horns, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I think
then it's really kind of not
your
the
dream
same
guitar is quite doable.
If I'm wanting to buy a car, I won't come to you for a motorcycle, Billy. Anyways.
Boom. Okay.
Anyways, well, thank you so much to Stu for sending that in, and that was a really fun one. Much obliged. If you want to get your Would You Rather read or listened to, I guess,
or
even
answered,
better, or answered even, you can send it to us, and we'd be happy to do that. Thank you, Stu, for sharing that with all your friends too. He's getting the word out. We really appreciate that. We love new listeners. All right, Tony, we got some people to thank.
That's right, Todd, because at this point of the show, we love to thank a very special group of people. These are our executive producers. Now, an executive producer makes the podcast possible. How do you become one? Very simple. Go over to patreon.com/the Guitar Knobs. I almost forgot.
Yeah.
I almost forgot where I was.
Okay.
Check out a couple different levels in which you can participate, become a patron, a sponsor of this very podcast. Each level comes with some really great thank you gifts, piles and piles of thank you gifts, including things like giveaways.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got some giveaways coming up.
Couple pedals and a bunch of tour gear patch cables.
But there's one thing more
Yep.
in addition to all the great stuff. Jared, what is that?
You get to have your name read on the thing.
Your name read on the thing. I got it, Todd. I got you covered.
Do it.
I do. So special thanks to these executive producers. Moon Guitars, Vader Pedals, Drew Lopez, John Halverson, Rick Calhoun, Trevor Gunberg, Elad Mizrahi, Mike D, Richard Kendall, Mark Garton, Matt Hart, James White, Justin Jones, Anthony Jamalera, Pagola Guitars.
Man, that guy's making some fine stuff down there.
Nice
Oof.
stuff. Another one of our fans from Australia.
Yep.
John Esterly. Hi, John. Anthony Lathrop. Stefan Lamb. Michael Senchuk. Ken Sayers. Doug Christ. Darren Gregory. John Anglin. Tom Barazin. Rusty Sneeden. Ralph Gottschalk from Wonderful Audio Technology. What? Thank you. Don Kloss. Gregory Randall. Brett Hogarth. Eric Hammer. And Stuart George.
Yes.
All the way from Wales.
Yes.
Giving Australia a run for its money.
And what? I don't know, but
From Wales.
yes.
Wheels.
Proximity or okay.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But, Todd, there's another special group of executive producers.
Yes.
These are our grand poobahs.
Yes.
These are the top of the heap.
Yes.
The creme de la creme.
Sitting up there at the penthouse
Yes, and sitting in some
with
sort
the
of...
nacho cheese fountain.
Oh, that sounds really good.
Yes.
I'm going to try that. So special thanks to these grand poobahs. Tommy Manasco, Ricardo Iguareda, David Kaminga, Brandon Wham Pickups, Lex Matos, Michio Murakishi, Bob Crouch, Jack Cadian, Sam Jett, Tyler Rhines, LSJ Music Company.
Yes.
John Williams, James Pennington, who just sent us some really cool pedals.
Yep.
Adam Johnson, Steve Keys, Cody Foster, Science of Sound, Brian Robison, Jonathan Jurisic from 12th Hour Devices, Corey Nigro, Michael Van Zant, Tim Nowak, Jonathan Daly, Martin Cliff, Sean S., and Eddie Serratos. But wait! We have an upgrade!
Oh, I love these.
A new
An
sponsor?
upgrade from David Poe, who was a mere executive producer, now a grand poobah.
Nothing mere about the executive poobahs.
Welcome aboard. We have a fez coming your way.
How do you become one of these grand poobahs?
That's a great question that we kind of... We'll hit that again. Where can they go? Patreon.com.
Patreon.com/The Guitar Knobs. Check out the level called a grand poobah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to all of you who are supporting our show. It makes such a huge difference for us.
It really
We
does.
Truly appreciate it. So, Billy,
Yo.
where... You're involved in a lot of things. Where can people check out what you're doing?
Oh, of course. So I'm Billy Spitfire on Facebook. And what's that other one? Instagram. Yeah. It's the
Yeah.
same thing, kind of.
TikTok.
But
Yeah.
I also have an art page called Billy Spitfire Unlimited.
Yeah.
That's where I post all my
He is a remarkable
paintings.
painter, like legitimately. Really,
do you
really
do
good.
walls?
And okay. Why do you ask? No.
If you're naked, yes.
We don't talk about these things. Also, I play lead guitar in the Mathematics from Columbus, Ohio.
MEH.
MATICS.
Yes.
Mathematics.
Yeah.
We're a punk band, and we can be found on Facebook and all that stuff,
Yeah.
as well
Sort of
as
New York Dolls-ish.
Yeah.
Esque.
Yeah, we're a late '70s kind of, glam punk.
Yeah.
And you can also find us on Apple iTunes and
Spotify, all
Spotify
that
and Pandora and all that stuff. We've
Yep.
got one album out called Mathematics.
Yep.
We're going to be coming out with another one. I also play in the surf band, the Bastard Sons of Neptune.
Uh-huh.
which is a local cover band of mostly surf tunes. And we also surf up some other classic songs,
Right on.
by like Chris Isaak or Dwight Yoakam.
Yep.
And
You play bass in that.
I play bass in that band, and we also do some originals. So one of these days we might put together a little mini album.
It is a band of very talented,
Yeah, very talented.
gentlemen.
I'm honored to be on that stage
legit,
with those guys.
Legit,
Yep.
really great players.
Yep.
Cool. Well, Tony, how about yourself?
Just head over to pickguardian.com.
Thank you so much.
Check
All
out-
right, we're gonna.
Why do you interrupt me, Todd? Just go to pickguardian.com. Check out some of the stuff that I do there. Shoot me an email. Let me know what you're trying to do. I do mostly custom work. So
Yes.
just let me know what you need, what you're trying to do. And
If you
I
need
will
to put some lipstick on your guitar, Tony's the man.
Yes. Or if you want your own little signature like Billy Spitfire.
Yeah, very cool.
He's the man.
Yeah, you can email me at todd@theguitarknobs.com. You can direct mail me direct message me rather at Instagram at Guitar Knobs. We would love to hear what's going on with you, what you think about the show, good or bad. And mostly good. We like those ones.
All the bad ones, write them on the back of a $20 bill.
Yeah. And then, send us your Would You Rathers. We'd love to hear that. And, we get a lot of, legitimately, we get a lot of people, hey, have you heard about this, these pedals or these guitars or anything like that?
Yeah.
Hey, we don't know there's tons of people yet to be explored.
Yes.
So, fortunately, that means we get a lot more episodes coming up. So anyways, thank you so much to Acey for the time that you shared with us, the information that you shared and everything. And hope you had a good time on the show.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, hey, this has been a super fun time. I hope you have enjoyed it as much as we have. Have a fantastic guitar week and subscribe.
Yes.
He's got a thing. He's got a thing.
Got a thing. Todd, are you there, Todd? We're talking to you, Todd. Todd.
Is it true what they say right on the bathroom walls about Todd?
We got a bunch of. See, the thing is, from this point on, it's more nonsense. We front load with nonsense.
Okay.
And then we also backload with nonsense.
Okay.
Yes. It's just not enough nonsense. Okay. So
Or nonsense.
nonsense. Yes. Did you drink any of that?
I did.
Okay.
I did. I drank half.
Everybody good?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Give me a second.
Yeah. I'm an excellent driver. That's right, Todd. I'm going to tell the whole story now.
By everybody, I mean everybody but me.
He's got to see a man about a horse.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/The Guitar Knobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.